Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Commander deck video. So over Christmas break, I went ahead and made a ally deck, thanks to the Avatar, the Last Airbender series to come out for Magic. So here we have Katara the Fearless, and this is all going to be about ETB abilities. So I'll try to get as many of those to happen. Make tokens, all the good stuff. Let's see what we got. Had a free blade from World Wake. Whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on it. Ondu Cleric. Whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to the number of allies you control. Alright, here we have the South Pole Voyager. Whenever this creature or another ally you control enters, you gain 1 life. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card. So if you play an ally, and let's say when it enters, you create a 1/1 ally creature token, you would gain 2 life and draw a card. Harabaz Druid. Tap, add X mana of any one color to your mana pool, where X is the number of allies you control. Very good ETB ability here, but I mean, just the mana produce. Yeah, there's no ETB ability there. Haru, hidden talent. Whenever another ally you control enters, Earthbend 1. So you can target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste that's still a land. You put a +1/+1 counter on it, and when it dies or it is exiled, return it to the battlefield tapped. So, oh, did you play Armageddon? Did you get rid of all lands? Or did you Wrath of God? Well, I'll just put my land back into play. How is that an uncommon? Great Divide Guide. Each land and ally you control has tap, add 1 mana of any color. So, no ETB ability here, but just a way mana ramp. We've got the Jawari Shapeshifter, and it'll enter the battlefield as a copy of any ally creature on the battlefield. Kazandu Blade Master, a 1/1 first strike vigilance, and whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on it. Unsettled Mariner. Now this one I was iffy about it. It has Changeling, so it counts as an ally, because it's every creature type. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1. Earth King's Lieutenant, a 1/1 trample. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each other ally creature you control. And whenever another ally you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Abira Evangel. Whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may choose a color. If you do, allies you control gain protection from the chosen color until end of turn. Earth Kingdom Jailer. When it enters, exile up to one target artifact, creature, or enchantment an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater until this creature leaves the battlefield. Dejaru Archer. Whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it deal damage to target creature with flying equal to the number of allies you control. Mechanist, Aerial Artisan. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a clue token, which you can pay 2, tap, and sack it to draw a card. And you can tap him, and until end of turn, target artifact token you control becomes a 3/1 construct artifact creature with flying. Suki, Courageous Rescuer. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. And whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. So if you're going to use ETB abilities and you're going to ping stuff, you're going to exile it, return it. So whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield, go ahead and make another ally and keep having those ETB abilities ping. Spawnbinder Mage. So no ETB ability here, but you can tap it and tap an untapped ally you control to tap target creature. And this one might come out. Not gonna lie. Hmm. Yeah, this one might come out. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll leave it in for now, but this one's gonna be iffy. Alright, here we got Jet, Rebel Leader. So whenever Jet attacks, look at the top 5 cards of your library, and you can put a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Hakoda, Selfless Commander. A 3/5 Vigilance. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast ally spells from the top of your library. And you can sacrifice Hakoda, and creatures you control get +0/+5 and gain indestructible until end of turn. Restoration Angel. Let's go ahead and play her with Flash, and maybe you can save an ally you control, exile it, and then return to the battlefield and get some triggered abilities going. Appa, Steadfast Guardian. So here we have a Flash Flyer, 3/4. See if we can get it to focus. Alright. When Appa enters, airbend any number of target non-land permanents you control. So you exile them, and while each one is exiled, you can pay 2 to cast it from exile. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. So I could pay 2 and cast it from exile, get the ETB ability from it, and create a white ally creature token, which, if the ally I cast from exile Has an ETB ability for whenever an ally comes into play. That'll trigger again. Munda's Vanguard can tap and tap an untapped ally you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Revelark. A lot of these creatures in here, I'd say there's probably 31 creatures, including the commander, maybe 32. And probably 20 of them, around 20 of them, have power 2 or less. So whenever Revelark leaves the battlefield, it can return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And it has an evoke ability for 6, so you can cast it for 6, and when you do, you sacrifice it when it enters the battlefield. Master Piandao, 4/4 first strike. Whenever he attacks, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an ally, equipment, or lesson card. Are you going to focus? You're not going to focus. No. There you go. Good job. From among them, put it into your hand. So, attack with a 4/4 first strike. And hopefully you can find an ally, equipment, or lesson card. Which I don't think I have any or very few lesson cards in here. I don't think I have any. But there are a couple equipments, and of course plenty of allies. Aang, Airbending Master. So when he enters, airbend another target creature, so you exile it and you can pay 2 to cast it from exile. Whenever one or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, you get an experience counter. And at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white ally creature token for each experience counter you have. Seagate Lore Master. Tap, draw a card for each ally you control. Kajiru Warcaller. Whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Turntimber Ranger. Whenever it or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield, and if you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Turntimber Ranger. Katara, Water Tribe's Hope. So she's a 3/3 vigilance. When she enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. And you can waterbend X, or creatures you control have base power and toughness XX until end of turn. X can't be 0. So whenever you do a waterbend cost, you can tap your artifacts or creatures to help. Each one pays for 1. So it's pretty cool. It's like, hey, I got 6 allies out. I'm gonna tap 4, so my 2 remaining ones become 4/4s. And then if you attack with them and they don't have vigilance, you're tapped out. So really, it's the ETB ability. But if there's a lot of tokens, and I can tap a lot of tokens and make my other creatures bigger, maybe it'll work out. Probably not, because Eldrazi pretty much kicked these things like through the clouds. So, Aang at the Crossroads, a 3/3 flyer. And when Aang enters, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card with mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. When another creature you control leaves the battlefield, transform Aang at the beginning of the next end step. And when you transform him, he turns into Aang, Destined Savior. So hopefully you can see that. So he becomes a 4/4 flyer. Land creatures you control have vigilance. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, Earthbend 2, so target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste that's still a land. And you can put two +1/+1 counters on it. And then if it dies or is exiled, return to the battlefield tapped. I think that's just ridiculous. Well, I'm going to make my land creatures, you know, this. Oh, did you destroy them? Oh, I'll get my land back. Alright, for Planeswalkers, we've got Gideon, ally of Zendikar. So you can add a loyalty counter until end of turn. Gideon becomes a 5/5 human soldier ally creature with indestructible that's still a Planeswalker, and you prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. 0, put a 2/2 white knight ally creature token onto the battlefield. And when you play him, he comes in with 4. You can just take 4 off of him right away, and you get an emblem with creatures you control get +1/+1. Venser, the Sojourner. So you can add 2 loyalty counters to him and exile target permanent you own. Return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. So if somebody like takes one of your permanents or like takes control of like Katara, the Fearless here, just hey, give me your commander. You don't get to use any of its abilities. Well, I'll play Venser and hopefully if I can target it, I'll exile a permanent I own. I own it. And then I can return it back under my control at the beginning of the next end step. Can -1 loyalty counter. Creatures are unblockable this turn. And if you -8 loyalty, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, exile target permanent. So I think that's it for the creatures and planeswalkers. We'll go ahead and get into artifacts. I don't know what this is. You guys know what this is? Yeah. Soul Ring. I mean, gotta have it. Stoneforge Masterwork. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. So if I have 5 allies out, then the equipped creature would get +4/+4. Skull Clamp. Pay 1, equip a creature. If its toughness is 1, it'll die. And whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. So if I'm making those 1/1 tokens, those ally tokens, maybe I can use this to draw some more cards. It'll probably get, you know, disenchant, or good naturalize. Arcane Signet. Any commander deck I make that's 3 or more colors, I mean, even if it's 2 colors, I'll probably put a Arcane Signet in there. The two mana rocks uh, are always nice. Captain's Claws. Equipped creature gets +1/+0. And whenever equipped creature attacks, put a 1/1 white core ally creature token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So, yes, I can put in a 1/1 in, it might die because it's attacking, but I'll get the ETB triggers to happen as well. Vendor's Waterskin. Untap this artifact during each other player's untap step. And you can add 1 mana of any color. How is that a common? Explain that to me. Panharmonicon. If an artifact or a creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So let's just double up those ETB abilities. So when you play Katara here, and she enters, and her ETB ability creates a 1/1 ally, so you'll double that. So then the one ally comes in, you'll double abilities when that one hits. And then you'll create another 1/1 white ally token, and then you'll double, any of the other ETB abilities when allies enter. But like I said, Emrakul will just come down and use one of his little tentacles and just sweep all of these guys off into the void. Vanquisher's Banner. So, very nice in tribal decks. When it enters, choose a creature type, allies. Creatures you control, the chosen type, get +1/+1. And whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. Banner of Kinship. When it enters, choose a creature type. This artifact enters with a fellowship counter on it for each creature you control of the chosen type. So let's say I have 5 allies when I play this artifact. It'll come in with 5 fellowship counters on it. And creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+1 for each fellowship counter on it. So even if they get destroyed and this artifact stays out, if I play another ally, it would get +5/+5 because it'll still have the 5 fellowship counters on it. And then somebody plays an Aether Snap and hey, get rid of all counters and stuff on permanents. Target opponent controls. Sweet. Conjurer's Closet. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. That's going to do it for artifacts. For enchantments, we have first off Airbender Ascension. So when it enters, airbend up to 1 target creature, so exile it, and then you can pay 2 to cast it from exile. Whenever a creature you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if this enchantment has 4 or more quest counters on it, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So basically it would turn into a Conjurer's Closet if it's got 4 quest counters on it. Bonds of Mortality. This one was an iffy, but when it enters, you draw a card and you can pay a green, and creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And that one, I believe, is out of Oath of the Gatewatch. Yeah. Waterbender Ascension. So whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you can put a quest counter on this enchantment. Then if it has 4 or more quest counters on it, draw a card. Waterbend 4, target creature can't be blocked this turn. So to waterbend, you can tap a artifact or creature you control, and it'll pay for 1 of that ability. So it's just a way to, if you're going to be attacking with allies and deal combat damage to a player, get those quest counters on it. If it has 4 or more quest counters on it, you can draw a card and you can make creatures unblockable. Oath of Gideon. There was only 2 planeswalkers in here, but this legendary enchantment's in there so that when it enters, you put 2/1/1 white core ally creature tokens onto the battlefield. And then each planeswalker you control enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on it. Allied Teamwork. So when this enchantment enters, you create a 1/1 white ally creature token, and allies you control get +1/+1. So a glorious anthem with a 1/1 ally creature token. Crystalline Armor. Maybe it's Crystalline Armor. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control and has trample. Alright, that'll do it for the enchantments. So for sorcery, we have Sylvan Scrying. Search for a land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So I'm gonna go get Cavern of Souls. I need my allies, uncounterable when I cast them. Rampant Growth. Get a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tap, shuffle. And you'll probably play a land that turn. So you'll play a land, then you'll play that, and have another land enter the battlefield. United Front. Create X 1/1 white ally creature tokens, then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Very baby. Counter it. Yeah, whatever. Kodama's Reach. Get search your library for 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards. Put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, and shuffle. Avatar's Wrath. Choose up to 1 target creature, then airbend all other creatures. Until your next turn, your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. So when I airbend all creatures, or all other creatures, they can be cast by their controller for 2. But they won't be able to do it until after my next turn. And then you exile this card. Supreme Verdict. Can't be countered, destroy all creatures. Akroma's Vengeance. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, and you can cycle it for 3 to draw a card. Hour of Revelation. It'll cost 3 less to cast if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. Which, if you're playing Commander with 4 players total, that's pretty easy to get to. So then you can destroy all non-land permanents. We have Swords to Plowshares. Exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Path to Exile. Exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. Essence Flux. Exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it's a spirit, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Now there are some spirit allies. Like, I don't have this one in the main deck, but the Moon Spirit here, it doesn't have an ETB ability, but if you Waterbend 5 and tap it, you can cast a non-creature spell from your hand without paying its mana value. Or its mana cost. Hope's Arrow Magic. Cyclonic Rift. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, and if you overload it for 7, You would return each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. So wipe your opponent's board, go ahead and attack with your creatures, and then somebody plays a Holy Day. Very nice. Or a Fog, just prevent all combat damage. Good play. Dovin's Veto. This can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. Oblation. The owner of target non-land permanent shuffles it into his or her library, then draws 2 cards. So if there's a permanent bugging you, hey, shuffle that back in your library, draw 2. Or if someone's trying to take out one of my permanents that I don't want exiled, I'll shuffle it back into my library and draw a couple of cards. Eerie Interlude. Exile any number of target creatures you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, somebody plays a wipe. Hopefully you can save your creatures and get all those ETB abilities happening. Return to Dust. Exile target artifact or enchantment, and if you cast a spell during your main phase, exile up to 1 other target artifact or enchantment. And that's it for the spells. So for the lands, we've got Command Tower. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Path of Ancestry. So I have 2 creatures in here that aren't allies. The Restoration Angel and Revelark. But if you cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, you can scry 1. Exotic Orchard. Add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. Hey, are you playing all black over there? Oh, cool. It'll be a colorless for me. I can't use it for nothing else. Ally Encampment. You can add a colorless or add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast an ally spell. And you can pay 1 tap and sacrifice Ally Encampment and return target ally you control to its owner's hand. Cavern of Souls. Choose a creature type when it enters. Allies. Tap add a colorless or add 1 mana of any color. Spend that mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, and that spell can't be countered. Just ridiculous. It doesn't even come into play tapped, too. Like, that's just... Wow. Don't ever ban this. Please. Jasmine, Dragon Tea Shop. Tap add a colorless, or you can add 1 mana of any color. Spend that mana only to cast an ally spell or activate an ability of an ally source. Pay 5 tap and create a 1/1 white ally creature token. Plaza of Heroes. Add a colorless. You can add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell. Or you can tap and add 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control. And you can pay 3 tap and exile this land. Target legendary creature you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Seaside Citadel. Tricolored lands are always nice. We have Fabled Passage from the Avatar Universes Beyond set. So you can tap, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. And if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. Flooded Strand. Pay 1 life, tap and sacrifice it. Search your library for a plains or island card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So gotta have the fetch lands. I don't have the $1,000 dual lands that just come into play and they're automatically a dual land. I don't have those. So fetch lands are a must for me. So Windswept Heath, Same thing as Flooded Strand, but you can search for a plains or a forest. And we've got Misty Rainforest. So pay a life, sacrifice it, search for a forest or island card, and put it onto the battlefield. Hollowed Fountain, a plains island. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. Breeding Pool. When it enters, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. I don't think I have a temple garden for this. I do not. When Lorwyn Eclipse comes out, I'll have some videos of opening some boxes of that. And hopefully I'll grab a temple garden out of that set and I'll put it in here. Temple of Enlightenment enters tap, and when it enters the battlefield, you scry 1. So you can look at the top card of your library. If you don't like it or you don't need it during your next turn, put it on the bottom of your library. Temple of Plenty, same thing. Just add a green or a white. And you have Temple of Mystery. So there again, you can scry 1 and you have a dual land. It does enter tap, that's the only downside. Glacial Fortress. It enters tapped unless you control a plains or an island. Sunpetal Grove. Enters tapped unless you control a forest or a plains. Hinterland Harbor. Enters tapped unless you control a forest or an island. A Darkar Wastes. You can add a colorless or add a white and a blue, and it deals 1 damage to you. I like the fact that these are, you can do the colorless, or you can do a dual color for 1 life, and they don't enter tapped. So just a cheapy version than the $1,000 dual lands. Yavimaya Coast, same thing. And Brushland is the green and white one of this. I don't have one of those either at the moment. Sky Cloud Expanse. Can pay 1, tap, add a white and blue. Sungrass Prairie, pay 1 tap, add a green and a white. Abandoned Air Temple. It enters tapped unless you control a basic land. Tap, add a white, or you can pay 4, tap, and put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So, does the same thing as Gavany Township, except I believe that's pay 5 and tap, and you need a white and a green with that. And it taps to add a colorless, and this taps and adds a white. Rivendell, Master Gamgee. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary creature. Tap, add a blue, and you can pay 2, tap, and scry 2. Activate only if you control a legendary creature. Agna, Quella. This land enters tapped unless you control a basic land. Tap, add a blue, and you can pay 3, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Core Haven. Add a colorless mana to your mana pool. And you can pay 1 and a white and tap it to prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by target attacking creature this turn. Mutavault. Tap, add a colorless, or you can pay 1 and Mutavault becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land, so you basically pay 1 and this thing gains Changeling and it'll become an ally. Secret Tunnel. This land can't be blocked. tap add a color list. Pay 4, tap target. 2 target creatures you control that share a creature type can be blocked this turn. So you can pay 4 and tap this, and 2 allies you control are unblockable. And we have 2 planes, 2 forests, and 2 islands. And that's going to be it for the Katara the Fearless ETB deck. So this was the only deck I made out of the Avatar set. I mean, got some really good legendary creatures, but I'm looking more forward to Lorwyn Eclipse and the Ninja Turtle set that comes out in March. So hopefully I'll have some videos of that for you. So I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share this with your Magic buddies. And until the next time, you guys have a good one.